session. Therefore, we would like to ask you to have a seat inside of Indonesia Pavilion because we will be the next session shortly. Thank you. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will begin our next session with a title of Combating Marine Plastic Debris and Ocean Policy. So everyone, we will ask you to please have a seat. So without further delay, I would like to ask Ibu Nani as the moderator of this session. To Ibu Nani, the stage is yours.
Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. Uh, Hi, finally. So very happy. First of all, we would like to express our gratitude and appreciation to the organizing committee for the excellent arrangement of this important event. We are really glad to see some of you, the very familiar face around, which means we are in the same crowd who share a common concerns in tackling these marine plastic debris problems. So there have been past undertaking on this issue, and it is now timely for us to have concrete actions and then to implement our commitments and working out the global action and innovation. So we have a great session this afternoon on the combating marine plastic debris and national ocean policy, which has the aim to showcase the Indonesian leadership and our action to tackle marine plastic pollutions, particularly in meeting its ambitious target of a 70% reduction by 2025. So also to provide an update, information about the Indonesia ocean policy, focusing on the potential ocean policy areas where bilateral, regional, and international cooperation could be developed or improved with the government of Indonesia. So we have five prestigious speakers. Would like to invite the first speaker come to the stage, His Excellency Dr. Safri Burhanuddin. Dr. Safri is a Deputy Minister for Human Resources, Science, Technology, and Maritime Culture from the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment. He was a director in the Ministry of the Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and also the coordinating ministry for people welfare. And he is also a lecturer in the University of Hasanuddin. So he has a PhD in the marine geophysics from the University de Bretagne Occidentale, France, for France. So he can speak French. I would like for the next speaker, I would like to invite Dr. Karin Kemper to come to the stage. Dr. Kemper is a senior director for the Environment and Natural Resources Management Global Practice, the World Bank. So prior to the current position, Ms. Kemper was senior regional advisor in the Latin America and Caribbean Vice Presidency. So Ms. Kemper has held various positions such as sector manager for social development, environment and water resources in the South Asia regions. Ms. Kemper's area expertise are environment, climate change, climate finance and water. So her published work include also about the natural resources governments in Latin America and Caribbean, social environment policies for inclusive. So she has a PhD in the water and environment studies from Linköping University, Sweden. So please, Dr. Kemper, come to the stage. And the third speaker, we have very special here, Ms. Christine Hughes. So, she is the director of the Global Plastic Action Partnership, a public-private partnership housed by the World Economic Forum that is aimed at eradicating plastic waste and pollution while focusing on the circular economy solutions. Over the past 20 years, Christine has represented companies and governments in driving complex global program focusing on the sustainability, economic development, communication and public policy, trade negotiation, and stakeholder engagement. She has a law degree from the American University, and she is fluent German and proficient in French also. So please come to the stage. And the fourth speaker we have here, Dr. Susan Gardner. She is a director of Ecosystem Division of the UN Environment Program. She has over 2 decades of the experience in science and environmental policy working for both the Mexican and United States governments. Prior to this position, she was a senior official at the US Department of State. And also International Environment and Scientific Affairs. So she was awarded the gold medal for exceptional services from the U.S. Environment Protection Agency for her contribution to the Minamata Convention on the Mercury. So thank you for your coming. And the last speaker is Ms. Agustina. So she is the Deputy Director for National Maritime Law and Regulation at the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investments. She has a contribution in the preparation of the Indonesia Ocean Policy, also support the completion of the various national and international regulation in the maritime sector. So now we know we have a special speaker here, and then also please come to the stage, Ibu Ina. So also the special things that we have 1 man and 5 women in the stage. Very good. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Safri Burhanuddin to give a keynote speech for this topic. Excellency, time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Nani. Very good afternoon, everyone. I'm very lucky today. It's honor to me. I have got 5 ladies. I have to compare the other presentations. I'm very lucky today. So, allow me to explain some of what's happening in Indonesia and what's our programs about combating marine plastic debris for sustainable ocean in Indonesia. I have time this outline, at least we will explain about 5 issues about national ocean policy and action on combating marine debris, baseline data for marine litter, partnerships among stakeholders, and our summary, and what's next. Indonesia ocean policy since 2017, we already established our ocean policy. It's not easy because we understand since the Minister of Marine Affairs established to 19, okay, 2000, yeah, and then that one we started to prepare the ocean policy, and finally we have the launch of Indonesian ocean policy. From 7 pillars, we just emphasize 2 pillars. One is management of the marine resources and development of human resources, and the second is about management of the ocean space and protection of the marine environment. This is the part how we control, how to manage to combating marine litter. If we see, this is very famous, the picture, the president, there's 5 action, national plan of action. One is behavior change, reduce land base, reduce sea base, enhance law enforcement, and of course, enhance law enforcement and research and development. Why is very famous? Because if you want to make some commitment, someone and the other will ask you, what you want to do? What is your strategy? What is your action? And when you will achieve this action? So we are commitment to achieve this action until 2020 by 2025. So from this one, our government, we commitment to reduce at least 70% by 2025, and from 3R at least 30%. This is, and we make sure this, we put it in the presidential decree, how serious Indonesia to combat the marine debris. And next, this is one of the actions of behavioral change. We use all the possibility, all the people, all influential people to do this one, not from all the NGO, included the education, the curriculum. We put on, this is the part of a behavioral change. Because we understood also, if you want to change the behavior, not just by the NGO is a part for the community, but we need also from curriculum. We need also from the influencer who has, because now with the media social, who has the follower, the bigger coastal, you can see the difference before and after. And then we can see here also the technology. If you want to do this one, we need a technology. We cannot do by a conventional one, just to pick and to collect and bring to the landfill, not that one. We need some technology. So the technology, one of the technology now we already implemented is plastic tarot. We know this technology started what's called in India. And other waste to energy. Some countries in Europe, especially in other countries, they use for waste to energy, and now also develop for plastic to fuel. And the other is for some achievement. When we say the national plastic of action, the people will ask, how about your achievement? After we announced 2017. Started announced in 2017, so they implemented in 2018. After 1 year, we can assume, we can make, what is this about from all the national action plan, you see, we have at least 3.8 reduction from behavior change. Why? Because Indonesia now, if you see, most of the students now, they understood what's happened and what they can do. Because from curriculum, they bring their own tumbler, they know how to do. And then if you see, most of the school, and so many cleanup action. The last one is the World Cleanup Action. Indonesia is participate at least 9.8 million people at the same time to do together all of Indonesian area. The biggest number in the world. This is most of Indonesia now understood what they have to do. It's now just to move to make some synchronized. It's like harmony, synchronized that we can do. And the second is what the land-based leakage. At least we estimate about 2.8% reduction and 1.7% sea-based leakage. And from the on single-use plastic, 2.7% reduction. Wise, at least now more than 20 local government has to issue the regulation, local regulation, how to limit it, the using of the single-use plastic. This is a part of how to reduce the single-use plastic. And last but not least, 0.2% reduction single-use plastic from use the biodegradable. We increase the number of the using the biodegradable plastic. Finally, if you want to make something that if you want to see what about the progress, if Indonesia make commitment to reduce 70%, if we say 70%, we must have a baseline. So what is the baseline? The baseline, we are thank you to the World Bank, we are thank you to the Global Plastic Action Initiative, we thank you National Indonesian Sciences to do together. From the World Bank, we can see here, and from the Global Plastic Action, they have the data is from the land. From World Bank, they have the data from the river. And from National Indonesian Sciences, we have the data from the sea. All the data we combine, and then we can estimate our baseline data, how many ton plastic leaks to the sea every year. If you read the number from the last article to 2015 by Jada Jambek, is double the number. But finally, we got the number is just from 0.949 until 0.89 million ton per year. Why? Because before the data is assuming just for the number of the people, population. Now, not just the population, we calculate also from how the leaks from the land, from the river, and the coast we combine, and we get this data. This is the most accurate. I cannot say the accurate one. The most accurate one that now we announce is our baseline number. So based on this one, we can calculate how about our achievement every year to achieve target by 2025. Among this one, to achieve this one, we also get some supporting from among stakeholders. Let's say, not just from the Minister, of course, Minister of Environment, Minister for Public Works, and also from the other institution, from the World Bank, you can see from the company, from GPEP and other, to join this one. And what we do, we started since Indonesia declared to become the first national to declare about National Plastic Action Partnership. Thanks for GPEP to support Indonesia. This is from the first one, we just consolidated the government side. With the National Plastic Action Partnership, we also consolidate the private sector. Both government and private sector, we can actually rate how to reduce the number of the combating marine debris. And also now, yes, thank you also for the whereby we have some supporting in solid waste management, because the big issue is how to control the solid waste before go to leak to the river, to the sea. We have some program for 6 years. We have loan from World Bank, US 100 million, especially for the West Java, especially for infrastructure, capacity building, and technical. There are 4 ministers involved in this project: Public Works, Environment, Home Affairs, and National Development Planning. I just to let you know, also we have some program in Muncar from the systemic. They can mindset for the people from 400 households become 9,800 is very effective. For 2 years, they can change from they cannot to organize how they improve their solid waste. Now become 100% from 9,800 households for 2 years. Muncar is one of the dirty coastal area, fisheries compound. Now it's become of the cleanest in the East Java. So as a summary for in our presentation, policy and regulation are in place now. We just now what we say today, in line with the program of the COP25, is time for action. So our chairman say now we to reduce the number of talking, but we increase the number of action. Action to combat that have been taken quite a long time in terms of quantity. Baseline data is not available, so everyone can use this one as reference. Our next step: strengthen execution of intervention, strengthening monitoring, surveillance system, and of course strengthening partnership with various stakeholders. I will invite to all our partners here to join to make sure that Indonesia also part of very ambitious country. Not just ambitious, but we can do why we can say this is ambitious, but it's if we can do together, it's not so difficult. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Safri. So we'll continue for the second speaker. Would like to invite Dr. Karin Kemper to give the speech. Time is yours.
Thank you, Pa Safri, for setting the stage for this really interesting event, and thank you for the invitation to speak. Just since last year's COP in Poland, and of course our Oceans Conference in Indonesia, where countries from around the world discuss marine plastics at length, there has been real momentum on the marine plastics agenda. I will speak a bit about Indonesia and the great cooperation that we have with the government of Indonesia, but I'd also like to speak a bit about marine plastics and what is happening in the world and how we are all engaging. Because I'm convinced that together we can resolve marine plastics pollution. It is one of these things that are really resolvable by a number of actions, by different actors, and by coming together. In the World Bank, we are working with actors from both the public and private sectors in support of governments and through coalitions of producers, retailers, and policymakers that come together to boost innovation on new technologies and materials and to increase financing. Now, that's especially true in the East Asia and Pacific region, which, if you look at it, is almost ground zero for this issue. And that's where governments are launching action plans and taking action, such as those you just heard from Indonesia, but also Fiji and, for instance, Thailand. You hear about the private sector making commitments to reduce waste and to develop new technologies to recycle and replace plastic, and NGOs and communities that are acting at the local level to change behaviors and raise awareness. We also target future polluters, that is, countries where the middle class is growing, especially in Africa. We developed an initiative in our financing for the poorest countries. It's the IDA Marine Litter Initiative, which enables recipients of those funds to also engage in the marine plastics agenda. As you all know, and as you just heard from Safri, it is intrinsically linked to waste management. So an engagement in waste management today in one's country or in one's city or community is at the same time a contribution to a public good in cleaning up the oceans. And we strongly felt that we wanted to provide additional funding for this for countries that are poorer and that are making that contribution. Now, we know that we must intervene on different fronts at the international and local levels, and that the solutions can only be found if we tackle all the sources of marine plastic pollution at the same time. So we work at all the three levels: the global, the subnational, and the local level. We have a number of high-level partnerships and dialogues in the G7 and G20 here at the COP, with the World Economic Forum, the Global Partnership for Action on Plastics. You will hear from Kristin later. And through these, we leverage our program and our financing and our convening power in order to help jointly with others to bring this movement to action. And we also finance analytics and catalytic investments, and we do that thanks to our ProBlue partnership, where we have a lot of different partners who enable us to do that. At the regional level in Southeast Asia, we see a strong agenda emerging under ASEAN that covers 10 countries in East Asia. And Thailand, as the 2019 ASEAN chair, has developed the Bangkok Declaration for combating marine debris, and that's accompanied by a framework for action. So we are continuing to support ASEAN and ASEAN countries, both with underlying analytics and studies, but also with investments. Which takes me to Indonesia. We've had a very fantastic relationship and cooperation with the government of Indonesia. Indonesia has been a pioneer in our collective engagement. It developed, as you heard, the first national marine debris action plan, and it's been rolling out critical policies and activities, and we are very proud to be a partner with Indonesia in that effort. We are supporting Indonesia in setting marine plastics reduction priorities through a fund that is funded actually by Norway and Denmark. And as Safri mentioned, we also collaborate with the GPAP and the national GPAP for the first national baseline assessment of plastics leakage into marine waters. Now, let me spend a little bit of time on that $100 million waste management project that we just approved in the World Bank by our board last week. Indonesia actually has developed an entire program for waste management. You know, it's an archipelago, there's many, many islands, and it is not a cheap thing to do in a country that is so widespread and that has so many people. That overall program will cost at a minimum $1.1 to $1.2 billion. And Indonesia is investing its own funds in that. It's talking to a number of financiers to help finance it, including and other multilateral development banks and the private sector. And we are very proud that we are able to contribute $100 million to this big overall program. So jointly with government financing, this will make about $300 million of what Indonesia is investing in solid waste management at this moment through that project. Now, what does it do? It supports solid waste management services initially for about 12 million people in West Java's Citarum watershed, which is the largest single source of plastics pollution in Indonesia. So the project aims to turn off the tap of plastics leakage through the Citarum by controlling the approximately 2,000 tons of waste that are unaccounted for every single day in the watershed and that lead to the plastic pollution in the river and then flowing to the ocean and beyond. So we believe that the project will result in significant positive impacts through improvement of waste collection, decreased waste burning, where actually you also have a climate change relationship, given that we are here at the climate COP, then decreased pollution, and of course there will be much more sanitary disposal of waste, which is really important for public health of Indonesia's citizens. And then the project will also support technical assistance and priority solid waste infrastructure in 8 municipalities in West Bandung. Now I have a problem with how to pronounce the names here. Cianjur, Purwakarta, Karawang, and Bekasi. And specifically, the government through these funds is going to help local governments ensure operational sustainability of waste management investments, while funding also urgent solid waste management infrastructure needs. And that includes collection, transport and transfer infrastructure, mechanical biological treatment facilities, including composting, recycling centers, and sanitary landfills. And you see that it all supports what Pasafri was showing in terms of how to reduce the plastic leakage in different parts of where the plastic comes from and how to deal with it. It will also deal with 4 of the 6 tier 1 cities. That's the ones that are very committed and have very high capacity. And it will also work with communities. And we are also discussing with the government a new platform of investments that we call the Ocean for Prosperity program to enhance coastal communities' livelihoods and enhance coastal resilience. And that's, of course, where you bring the source to sea concept together, because you're also right on the coastal side. We've always been impressed with Indonesia's emphasis on behavioral change. So you need to have the infrastructure in place, you need to do all the things I just mentioned, you need to bring different players, but this communications playbook that the government has developed for targeting messaging for maximum impact to populations is really important, and you see how this has already given results in the past year on changing people's behavior. So going forward, we will continue to collaborate with the coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and with NPAP to prioritize policies and economic instruments to address marine plastics, building on existing national platforms such as for solid waste management. So for all these reasons, I really remain hopeful And just a year since the Bali conference, it's clear that we've made a difference working together and that we can continue doing so by driving policy reforms and informing investments and strategies on marine plastics. So Indonesia has led the way, not just from a regional, but also from an international point of view. And we are very proud to be at the side of Indonesia in its continued way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Karin. So I would like to continue to the third speaker, the next speaker. I would like to invite Christine Hughes to give a presentation. Time is yours, Christine.
I got that, Grant. Hello, good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues. Hi, David. And thank you, Pak Safri, Dr. Nani, for this opportunity to speak. I really appreciate all the partnership from the government of Indonesia, and it's really terrific to be here today. I'm Kristen Hughes, and I oversee the work of the Global Plastic Action Partnership. It's a public-private platform housed by the World Economic Forum that's focusing on eradicating plastic waste and pollution by implementing circular economy solutions. And the partnership is built on a number of companies coming together along with a number of governments and working very closely to implement policies on the ground with countries who invite us to do so in that partnership, similar to this of Indonesia. At the global level, our objective is to pull together stakeholders and partners to amplify what each other are doing, to share best practices, and also look for ways to actually turn a lot of the world's commitments into action. So for years and years, a lot of people have been making commitment in the space of eradicating plastic waste. We're actually trying to take those commitments and turn them into action. In addition, we're going into a number of different countries at the national level and really helping to drive change. The very first of those countries was Indonesia, and we thank them for their invitation to partner with them. And it was just about 9 months ago that we launched the Indonesian National Plastic Action Partnership. It was back in March. Really terrific opportunity to think about how to pull these ideas together. And the national platform brings together these important players across the plastics ecosystem in Indonesia. And this is what the government have specifically asked us to do, which is pull these partners together, create a platform and an opportunity to curate dialogues that in a way that hasn't been done previously. We're thrilled to share the progress that we've made so far in collaboration with the coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and many other key stakeholders in Indonesia. And we plan that this National Plastic Action Partnership model will then be, we can take the learnings from and look to replicate it and build it in other places. We see three particular ways in which the National Plastic Action Partnership can be most valuable and used in Indonesia, as you see here through our impact mandate. First and foremost, it's through the convening of pulling people together. We bring public and private partners at the highest level to the same table in order to create partnerships that matter. In Indonesia, we've leveraged this opportunity to convene and create a highly engaged coalition of leaders who are eager to contribute to this effort, and the network only continues to grow. As Karen mentioned, it's an incredible opportunity for us to learn from one another and to seek out additional partnerships. We're moving the needle from talk to action. At the Forum's annual meeting in January, we will partner with Minister Luhut to announce key findings and recommendations from the National Action Roadmap. This will launch a full report, which will later be available around spring of 2020. And we hope to share that at the anniversary of our launch that took place in Jakarta last year. The recommendations will be a suite of options that lay out concrete systemic changes that can occur in order to achieve these really ambitious and robust objectives that Indonesia has set. And thirdly and finally, the National Plastic Action Partnership will support the government in being the underlying structure that connects all of the different programs, initiatives, and partners together to achieve greater impact. One thing that strikes me that will be particularly important in mapping out how each sector can contribute to the bigger picture. So what is it that beverage manufacturers need to do? What should mayors be thinking about doing? What can individuals, civil society, and entrepreneurs be doing? And then how do we work together, pull those points together to catalyze change? For us, with the National Plastic Action Partnership, being a convener means more than just connecting the right people with the resources and the right opportunities. If someone is piloting a game-changing innovation to reduce single-use plastic consumption, for example, how can we connect them with investment opportunities so that their project can move from incubation to national rollout? And a lot of you will see, and no doubt there's a lot of this here within the COP today, but many innovations and a lot of seed funding required. So how can we start to connect those so that they can actually be leveraged and implemented more broadly? And there are already really many excellent initiatives at play in Indonesia, tackling so many elements of the plastic waste and pollution throughout the supply chain. This slide is just an example of an abbreviated list of stakeholders who are really engaged in the National Plastic Action Partnership, and there are many, many more that we're already talking to who are doing a lot of work in this space, and we're looking for those opportunities to bring them into this together and to amplify their efforts. And again, as we talk about the benefits of partnership, and Karen has already discussed this, and actually Pak Safri had his slide, so not to go too deep into it and repeat their observations, but one of the values that we've seen through this partnership is the connection points. So what we've done in creating a model that has collected data and building on the analysis is that now we're working with the World Bank and LIPI to find other ways to use that model. So not only is Karen and her team working with the team in Indonesia to understand and evaluate the waste streams and the waterways, but they're now also looking to identify ways to build that into regions, into cities, to dive deeper into local action throughout the country. So we have a few more things coming up in the next few months. So as I mentioned, you can look for an announcement that will happen at the annual meeting in Davos, January 2020, from Minister Luhut, which will talk about the findings that came out of the baseline analysis and how that led to the creation of the National Action Roadmap. The full roadmap, as mentioned, will be launched later on in 2020. The title is A System Change Scenario to Radically Reduce Plastic Pollution in Indonesia. And I believe that when you see it, you will agree that indeed it is radical. It proposes a suite of options for sweeping transformation in which Indonesia can achieve a full transition to a circular plastic pollution-free space by 2040. The action steps in this roadmap will move the needle on plastic pollution in a really big way. It will provide a strong counterpoint to the argument that plastic pollution is too big and too complex to solve, because actually it lays out simple steps that can be built upon, what can be handled in the short term versus the medium and the longer term, so that one can actually start to understand what it will take to undergo a system-wide change. So we hope that it will serve as a starting point for dialogue and conversation and lead to other debates and engagements. Some key priorities that have already been identified include the National Action Roadmap, as mentioned a few times, but also an investment roadmap will follow. So how do we take the recommendations from the National Action Roadmap and implement them into further action? What will it actually take to achieve that? So how can we connect those dots between the actions identified and the recommendations and the investments that are available to move that needle? Similarly, Karen's also mentioned this, and Pak Safri in the first slide, around public awareness, behavior change. So in order to really shift this a little bit more is how do we actually create the opportunity, have this dialogue, and to incentivize us as individuals and as consumers to change our behavior and our partnership that we have currently with plastic. There's also a need for greater innovation, and we'll be looking for ways to identify the innovators, but also to scale what it is they're looking to achieve and to connect them with others so that they can leverage one another's strengths. And then finally, metrics and policy. In addition to the action roadmap being a lot of policy recommendations that are opportunities for change, there's also a need for metrics to be harmonized. So we're going to be working with others to explore ways that we can ensure that apples are apples and oranges are oranges when we talk about progress measurements, so that we're not all talking about different things along the way. We're building this out in a much needed way with continued partnership with the government of Indonesia, and we're so thankful for your partnership and everything that we've learned through it. This will only help to make our national plastic action partnerships around the world stronger as we continue to look for ways to build them out. So I thank you all again. Thank you again, Pak Safri and Dr. Nani, for having me here today, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. So I'm glad to continue for the next speaker, Dr. Susan Kerner. So please, time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for hosting this conversation in this extraordinarily beautiful pavilion. I just am amazed and looking around at how beautiful it is. All right, so there's the presentation. I'll just start by saying that in September, just a couple months before delegations from dozens of countries convened in Bangkok for the ad hoc open-ended expert group meeting on marine litter and microplastics, Thailand's prime minister warned the public of environmental concerns about plastic waste after they found a locally harvested fish, a mackerel, that was heavily contaminated with microplastics and actually created a human health concern. He noted that a single plastic bag takes up to 450 years to decompose, ending up in our stomachs, just like it ended up in the fish's stomach. There's over 200 species of fish, birds, turtles, mammals that have been recorded ingesting marine plastic. And solving this problem requires strong and immediate action, as we're hearing today from all of the really exciting and meaningful work that's been presented. The environmental impacts and the economic costs are just growing every day, and it requires a fundamental transformation in the way we consume plastic. But we know that solutions exist, and so I'd like to share a bit about some of the work that we're doing through the UN Environment Program to support some of the actions on marine plastic debris. So the need for action in addressing marine litter has been highlighted in many of the key resolutions and decisions at the global as well as the level. And there's been 4 UN Environment Assembly resolutions on marine litter that have called for development of regional and national action plans on marine litter, strengthening scientific and technical knowledge, and the establishment of ad hoc and open-ended working group to inform the UN Environment Assembly's discussions on options to address this environmental challenge. A major aspect of the solution is raising awareness and building capacity. So we've offered open online courses, including different tracks, from a leadership track and an expert track. Expert track takes about 6 weeks to complete. The leadership track is a little shorter, about 2 weeks, and is available in multiple languages: French, Portuguese, Chinese, Russian, Arabic, English, Spanish. We're also working to harmonize monitoring and assessment through training of trainers programs, so far in 16 countries in Eastern Africa and in the COP/C region. These are designed to provide support and establishment of monitoring programs to really ensure that there's high quality data that it's collected. We're currently developing global monitoring platforms that link national data to regional and global information. And we aim to strengthen the capacity of countries to be able to effectively use evidence-based approaches for their own national decision-making. We hope to provide these trainings in more languages and across more countries in the coming year. Also, for the Clean Seas campaign, this is a 5-year campaign launched in 2017 that's really designed to improve outreach and awareness. More than 60 governments, including Indonesia, have joined with commitments. There are 18 regional seas conventions and action plans, 7 of which are administered by UNEP. And they are key regional platforms for action on marine litter and other topics. These conventions and action plans have really been instrumental in putting marine litter on the global and regional agenda. They are effective mechanisms to be able to address transboundary issues such as this and connect national, regional priorities to global goals. Now, the coordinating body of the Seas of East Asia, or COPSEA, is a regional intergovernmental mechanism that's a decision-making body for the Eastern Asia Seas Action Plan. There's 9 participating countries: Cambodia, People's Republic of China, Indonesia, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam. And the Secretariat is hosted by Thailand and administered by the UN Environment Program. It provides overall technical coordination and implementation of various action plans. Now, through the COPSEA Regional Action Plan on Marine Litter, there are strategic directions that guide COPSEA participating countries and the Secretariat's action towards planning, implementation, and tracking on the delivery of any ocean-related sustainable development goals. And there's 2 substantive areas included in this. It's land-based marine pollution, so that includes nutrients, sediments, wastewater, in addition to marine litter and microplastics. And then there's also marine and coastal planning and management. And within this, there's also sort of an overarching governance theme that addresses sort of regional policy mechanisms. There's also the Regional Action Plan on Marine Litter, and this was just revised last June. The goal is to prevent and reduce marine pollution and deliver on SDG 14.1. It establishes a working group on marine litter, which will develop work plans and guide implementation of the Regional Action Plan. It's been really key to helping to catalyze action, for example, in ASEAN and other bodies. And in fact, COPSEA has also been helping to deliver on the global MEAs, the multilateral environmental agreements provisions, such as the Basel Convention, with COPSEA joining as a Basel Convention partner in the partnership. So progress is advancing through coordinated efforts, including the COPSEA Working Group on Marine Litter, through the Sea Circular, which is a joint regional marine litter project with support from the Swedish government. It supports countries in Southeast Asia to prevent plastic marine pollution through upstream action, as well as improved planning and monitoring and regional cooperation. And Seas of Solution, which is part of the Seas Circular project. It's an annual partnership week on marine plastic and prevention that brings together governments, business, civil societies, academia, and communities to share solutions and accelerate action. The first event just took place in November in Bangkok with over 500 delegates from 45 countries. The next one will be hosted next year in Vietnam. And the Sea Circular project aims to reduce adverse effects of land-based plastic leakage into the environment by ensuring that less plastic is wasted at the source and to improve management of plastic of the value chain throughout Southeast Asia. This focuses on the life cycle stages: production of plastic, plastic use, collection, sorting, recycling. Project partners include national local agencies, businesses who are involved in packaging and consumer industries. And packages engage civil society, consumers, they inform waste workers, and the general communities that are most vulnerable to the impacts of marine litter. So finally, the Regional Capacity Center was noted in the UNEA 4 resolution for the protection of marine environment and land-based activities. As you know, Indonesia established the Regional Capacity Center for the Clean Seas in Bali to assist countries in developing their national capacities towards implementing the action plan, the strategic directions. And it's an invaluable resource for developing activities, leveraging multi-stakeholder collaborations and institutional strengthening. So in conclusion, UNEP's continuing to work with a full range of stakeholders to address all areas where marine litter challenge, including patterns of consumption and production. There's been a great engagement that signals fantastic opportunities in this area. And for example, we saw really statements of urgency at the 2019 Oceans Conference in Oslo recently. We see public awareness is growing every day as issues start to show up in the news almost every day. Collaborative work with contributions from all stakeholders, such as the programs that I've just described and those that you've heard earlier from the other speakers, are really essential to advance progress on this global issue and to prevent the further deterioration of our marine and coastal environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So it's very great presentation. So we will have the last speaker, and then this presentation will be different with the previous presentation. So I would like to invite the Ms. Agustina. She will give the presentation about the Indonesian ocean policy. So time is yours.
Thank you, Bu Nani. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation today is I would like to talk about Indonesian ocean policy and the National Action Plan for IOP. Yeah. The history of Indonesia as maritime nation has begun since Indonesia still consisting of the kingdom, such as if we go to Borobudur Temple in Magelang, Central Java, we can see the relief of the silent radiant sea. Among them are the relief this relief Borobudur ship the relief as profound, recalled that the ancestors of Indonesian people were great sailors. The researchers, the reconstruction, the ship of depicted in Borobudur is the actual size and Samudra Raksa we call, and then the crew successful attempted to retake the Kayu Manis route journey across the Indian Ocean from Jakarta to Agra, Ghana, and back to Indonesia. However, the Samudra ships did not have any engine, radar, or other modern naval technology installed. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, this timeline of Indonesia ocean policy. Ladies and gentlemen, the birth of the IOP was the historical milestone since the IOP concrete realization of the Indonesia maritime nation conception science is on conception science is 1928 for the first time 20 October 1917, the Indonesia Ocean Policy, we call IOP, which established with President Decree number 16 on 2017, which was approved by President Joko Widodo. Not until 2017 through bilateral cooperation with various countries and various research forums and the NGO, maritime development efforts and tackling various problems, marine debris like conservative and the others. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our minister will be formulating process the second IOP, National Plan of Action 2022 and 2024, and follow review first action plan of the previous midterm period 2016 until 2019, populate recommended activity program. Internal analysis by our ministry develop to first draft of NPOA, and then the consulting process with implementing ministry and agency, and the finalization of the draft NPOA for the IOP. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So thank you for all speakers. So we are running of the time. So apologize that I think we have a very short time for question and answer, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So if is there any comment or question, short, please? Yeah, please, Ibu. Yeah, unfortunately, Ibu Karen Camper has to leave because she has another task. But if there's a question to
Thank you very much, and my question is to all the presenters. One, what specific message do you have for the producers of plastic? And what specific message do you have for the users of plastic? And is there a way of going without plastic in this world?
Yeah, maybe the second question. Yeah. Ibu, please. Ibu Nina.
Thank you, Bu Nina. We appreciate in your supports for the all finalists related to the efforts to reduce plastic waste in the ocean. We hope these efforts will continue with collaboration all parties. And my question for Ibu Nina, how to monitor the program implementation of IUP from respective ministry or institution. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think one more. Is there one more person? Okay, I think there's enough 2 questions. Pak Safri and Ibu Christine, would you like to answer the questions, please?
Thank you. I think this is the most important thing, the question. What are the principal message for this, what's called the usage of plastic? We have, all the countries have the same problem, and especially in developing countries. Indonesia, the message is clear that now not just the government involved in these issues, but all the stakeholders, from the government, private sector, and the community. The message is clear, we have to do together. And the government give because the regulation is clear. Now we implemented the regulation. We started from the local government because in our regulation mentioned clearly, the solid waste management is responsibility by the local government. And local government, normally the problem in local government because they need more supporting from the central government. So now we move together. We not just from central government, we included the private sector, included now from the World Bank is involved in this program. We started the pilot project in West Java, but at the same time we do in the other area. So that's clear now. To combating marine litter, it is not just the role of the government. That's the principal message. So why now, if we see, I just let you know, the number of NGO 10 years ago is just 2,000, and now it's almost 10,000. From 2,000, 10,000. Why? Because all the people now, all the community thinking of this, how to resolve this problem. That's clear. So why we are thank you. This is we don't want to what's called it boring to let them every day, every time. If you come to Indonesia, most of the advertising now they're talking about these issues. It's become from just not from advertising, even from the social media. This is the important thing. If they know now that they can do, and this is a part of the government to educate the people.
Yeah, I'd also build on that a little that in addition to sort of the principle of plastic, I think it's really important to recognize that plastic is a very innovative, necessary material. It's everywhere in this room. And so we shouldn't demonize plastic as the material, but our relationship with it and how we use it. And so to your point about what's the message to the plastic producers, we are working with them to create innovative ways that they can create plastic that remains in the circular economy. So it's not just a use and dispose approach, but at the same time, we as individuals also need to change our behavior so that we can actually see an increase in recycling and reuse and other sorts of technologies that will maintain a positive relationship with plastic.
Thank you. Maybe Ibu Ina can ask.
Terima kasih Ibu. I would like to answer your question with bahasa Indonesia. Untuk monitoring dan evaluasi, Kementerian Koordinator Bidang Kemaritiman bekerja sama dengan Kantor Staf Presiden yang dilakukan dalam periode 4 semester per 3 bulan, itu dipantau langsung oleh Bapak Presiden. Jadi apabila ada perwakilan kementerian lembaga yang tidak melaporkan hasil yang sudah ada dalam buku rencana aksi kebijakan kelautan tersebut, otomatis Presiden bisa langsung melakukan teguran. Terima kasih.
Okay, I think the last I would like to invite Susan to give a closing statement.
Well, thank you. I think you've already heard a lot of wisdom from my fellow panelists. So I can only reemphasize what the points are that they've made, that the solution and the message is about empowering all of us to understand both how we contribute to the problem, but also to better understand how we are empowered through the decisions that we make as consumers and the processes that we used in terms of generators of waste to really make a tremendous impact. Thank you.
Thank you. So I try to summarize a little bit for this session. So we see that the partnership has an important role to accelerate the actions in the combating marine plastic debris. And then the second one, I think we have now very good progress in the first version of the national baseline on the marine plastic debris that will be announced by the Minister of Environment and Forestry during the national coordination team led by the Minister of the Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries in the coming days. So, and then would like to thank so much to the speakers, very great speaker, and also to the audience, to the participant for the contribution. So let's give a big applause to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the speakers and moderator. And after this, there will be the giving of token and appreciation from Ibu Winarni Monarva on behalf of the Minister of Environment and Forestry. To all the speakers, we would like to invite you to stand in the center of the stage, please. And afterwards, we will have a photo session.